I'm Stephen Monteith, and this is 20 from 2020. It's 20 of my videos and podcasts from this last year that I want you to watch and or listen to. These aren't necessarily my best from the last year or even my favorite. Some of them are. But that's not why I picked them. I've never been good at picking the best or my favorite of anything, especially not of my own work. These are just the ones that I decided for one reason or another to include in this video, wrapping up this tumultuous year. And I'll talk about why when I go through each of them individually. I'll try not to take too much time on it. But if you've listened to my podcasts and videos before, you know that there is no try. What I've done, since it is so difficult for me to pick best of or favorites, is I've tried to divide the videos and podcasts that I've made this year into 4 sections, to sort of make it easier for myself to decide which ones I should include. Those 4 sections are political-themed podcasts, entertainment-themed podcasts, videos where I recommend movies and TV to watch, and videos with original content on original subjects, like my rewrite videos. Here's the thing. I'm a writer, and I've very much enjoyed all the writing I've done to create each of these videos and each of these podcasts. And I think I've done a pretty good job, at least with the writing side of it all. But I want to get back to my actual writing my short stories, my novellas, my other writing projects. Aside from a short story that I published earlier this year, I haven't actually finished a writing project in a long time. So while I certainly enjoy doing my podcasts and videos, and even think that some of them are important as well as entertaining, I'm going to spend 2021 getting back to my writing. I'll still do the podcast and the videos. As far as the podcast goes, there will be some changes to both of them. As far as the podcast goes, instead of doing politics on Tuesdays and entertainment topics on Thursdays, I will have one podcast a week. And during that episode, I will do just a brief rundown on both political and entertainment news, and I will include my movie and TV recommends for the week with it. There won't be any more lengthy speeches not during the podcast episodes about this or that event or aspect of entertainment. I will still give my opinions about news and events and whatnot, but I will, like I said, try to keep it brief, and if I think there's something that warrants a full-length episode in either political or entertainment news, then I will record it and make a video from it, out of it, and upload it to my channel here. There will be obviously a lot fewer videos as well, since, like I said, I'll be moving the movie and TV recommends back to my podcast, which is where they were originally anyway. I made them into videos starting this year to see how well that would go, and well, I'm going to move them back to my podcast now, and as far as videos that I'll be producing in 2021. Like I said, some of them will be speeches about this or that topic that I think warrant a full address on the subject. Some of them will be videos like my rewrites or other features that I'm hoping to get into in this coming year. Something else that I hope to be doing this coming year that's both video and writing related, I'm going to start using my Twitch channel more. See, writing takes discipline. It takes focus. And focus has always been an issue for me. I'm hoping that by writing on camera on my Twitch channel, that it will provide me enough focus to stay on task, to stay on subject. Especially if there are people watching who can keep an eye on me and tell when I'm not doing my writing. So feel free to help me out with that. You can, my Twitch channel link will be in the description, and I'll have a schedule up at some point. And you can watch me write, finish up my writing projects, and even ask me questions about writing if you want, and I'll give you the best answers that I can. Okay, that's enough for plans for the next year. Now let's talk about this last year and the videos that I'm including and podcast episodes. First, the political podcasts from this last year. The first one that I did was about the impeachment of Donald Trump and my personal endorsement of Pete Buttigieg for president. Obviously, neither Donald Trump's impeachment nor Pete Buttigieg's candidacy went very far, but, neither one of them had run their course when I made the episode. The episode was about both of those things and about why I felt it was important to be talking about them. I gave a little bit of history of presidential impeachment and why I felt Pete Buttigieg was, the best candidate for president, even though I ultimately ended up voting for Joe Biden. And I think it's just in general a really good episode. It's one of my, listening to it again recently, I'm glad I made that one my first political episode. A little bit later on in the year, we had riots and protests across the country about various things, of course. People being killed by police, black people being killed by police, and about... And so I did an episode on that, about things that lead up to riots and protests in general, about the conditions that produce them, and how, we don't have to wait for a riot or a protest to happen in order to try and, to deal with it. There are things that we can all be doing, to make sure that that these kind of things don't ultimately, that they don't ultimately become necessary. Around the same time, a lot of people were protesting monuments And I realized that I had a lot of personal feelings about monuments that I hadn't quite realized before. And I decided to do an episode about how, rather than preserving history, that monuments can actually distort it. They can give us a skewed view of historical figures, and how, we need to do a much better job of telling the stories of what actually happened in the past, the real foundations of our history, of our country, and how setting up monuments can actually be detrimental to that. I also did another protest-related podcast. This one was about how the government was responding to protests. It was an episode that I called America's Secret Police, because there were instances in Oregon, of all places, of federal officers acting outside their authority and without even claiming authority. And I and many other people were troubled about it, so I decided to do an episode about how this kind of thing shouldn't be happening in America, about how it's the kind of thing that you would expect to hear about happening in China or Russia or North Korea even. Federal officers just showing up where they don't have jurisdiction and just throwing people in unmarked vans and not even reading them their rights. And it was a very troubling response on the part of the federal government, and I certainly hope that we never have to deal with something like that again. And the final political podcast that I want to include here is when Donald Trump nominated Amy Coney Barrett. She was eventually confirmed to be Justice Amy Coney Barrett, a Supreme Court justice. But before the vote took place, I recorded a podcast about activism versus originalism. Various Supreme Court justices will call themselves originalists, trying to see what the original intent of the founding fathers and so forth when the Constitution and the amendments and federal law were written, trying to adhere to what they believed that philosophy was, versus activism, which a lot of people think goes too far in determining laws that, or deciding that a law exists where it isn't explicitly written. And I talked a little bit about what those two different philosophies have meant for the history of this country, and highlighting a couple of very important Supreme Court decisions that were made that really did change history in monumental ways. That's one of the most important things to think about when trying to decide who should sit on that on that highest bench in the land. So those are all of the political podcasts. Now I want to talk a little bit about entertainment podcasts. Yeah, I had a few different major entertainment related events that took place in this last year, and for example, the Zack Snyder's Justice League was announced. It's been just over 3 years now since Justice League was released in theaters, and in that whole time, people, including myself, have been hoping and working to see that that we eventually get Zack Snyder's original vision for Justice League. And it was announced this year that we would indeed be seeing it on HBO Max in 2021. Now, I've done a few different podcasts about Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm not gonna list any of those here, but there is one other thing that I wanted to highlight. I did a podcast called The Ayer Cut. Now, this was about David Ayer and his film, The Suicide Squad. Now, Suicide Squad was released in 2016, well over a year before Zack Snyder's Justice League, and the movement to get David Ayer's cut of the movie released has sort of been concurrent with the release the Snyder Cut movement, but not nearly as prominent. The Snyder Cut was the main focus, but there was always in the background a lot of people waiting to shift focus to getting the Ayer Cut released as well. And so I wanted to do a podcast about fan petitions in general, about the importance of them, about how they can shape entertainment. Because in the end, you know, a lot of people like to ask the question, who asked for this? I mean, I think it's a pretty banal question to ask whenever a new movie comes out and somebody says, who asked for this? You know, well, fan petitions are literally fans asking for it. They're literally fans standing up and saying, you know, I want to see this. So I did a podcast about that, and about the petition for the Ayer Cut specifically. I also did a post called Fanon, Fanon, and it was it's about how fans can go a little far sometimes, because you do want to put some restraints on it. You don't want the fandoms to run amok. I think we can all think of times when that has happened, but it can still be fun if done, you know, with a bit of restraint, with a bit of common sense. So I did a podcast about Fanon. And I also did one about the need for entertainment, about why fans become so invested in the first place. You know, sort of a brief history of entertainment in general, and about how we've always needed it and always wanted it and always been willing to pay for it. You know, it's something that was especially in this last year, something that has been on, I think, a lot of people's minds anyway. The question of how to stay entertained, the question of how important entertainment itself is, you know, whatever form that entertainment takes. Another one I did was Love and Fiction, talking about the different types of love that there are, because we always do seem to get the same type of love story in fiction. It's changing in recent years. We're getting more different types of love stories, but that was basically the point of that episode, trying to highlight the need for different types of love. And the last one I wanted to highlight, I wanted to highlight Star Trek month. I did a whole month. I took all of September, and every post I made all of my podcast posts and videos were all Star Trek related, and even the political ones. And I just couldn't pick one. I couldn't pick just one post from them that I thought was more important than all the others. But so I'm just including a link to the whole thing. Now you can click on the link and it'll show you all the different podcasts and videos that I posted on my website about Star Trek. September was a pretty fun month for me. I've been a Trekkie my whole life, and I have had a lot of thoughts and ideas about it for the last almost 40 years, I guess. So yeah, so that wraps it up for the entertainment portion of it. Now let's get on to the videos. I've recommended a lot of different videos over the last year. Like I said, I started off doing recommends on my podcast, but this year I did videos, and I've tried to do themes for them. I've tried to do theme videos to try and give a little bit of flash, a little bit of imagination, a little bit of storytelling to my recommend videos. For example, I did on the 4th of July, I did one about all the different movies that are set on the 4th of July that I recommend. And there are a lot of different types of it. There are horror movies, there are family movies, there are sci-fi movies, action movies, musicals. I just wanted to do, I did anything that featured the 4th of July or was set on or around the 4th of July that I felt I should include in there. I also did one nearer to the election about presidents in fiction. Yeah, I didn't. I tried to keep it separate from the 4th of July ones. Obviously, you would expect there to be some overlap with those two different subjects, but apparently there's not that much of an overlap. I was able to do two separate videos about them. I also did one on movies and shows that deal with racial justice. Like I said, there were a lot of protests and riots earlier this year, and I wanted to do something that I felt would help not only entertain but enlighten people. Give you a list of movies and whatnot that I felt would help with that, would help bring to light some issues that we all could stand to learn a little bit more about. I also did one about Muppet movies. I went over all of the theatrically released Muppet movies, and I said which ones I recommended and which ones I didn't. Very few of them that I don't actually recommend. You can watch the video itself, of course, to see which ones I do and which ones I don't. And around Halloween, I did a video about movies with creepy houses in them. Big creepy houses. Not necessarily movies that took place around Halloween, but that had that setting that when you're inside it, it just sort of feels like you're in Halloween anyway. Okay, so those are the recommend videos that I recommend. And now, finally, the original content videos. If I was a little vague before about what these are, then let me tell you which of the original content videos from this last year I really would like you to check out. First of all, there's the Monty Awards. Now, the Monty Awards are something that I've done for a couple of years now. It's not the best of, because, like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm not good at picking out the best or even my favorite. But they are movies that I feel people overlooked, but that shouldn't have been overlooked. You know, everybody can sort of agree on what the best movies of the last year are. And of course, in this video that I made, it was at the beginning of 2020, so of course I was talking about movies from 2019. Everybody can sort of agree on what their favorite movies from 2019 are, but I wanted to highlight some movies that I felt shouldn't have fallen by the wayside, or that shouldn't have been overlooked, or that were unfairly judged, I felt. Because that's what the Monty Awards are. They're about bringing attention to things that I feel didn't get the attention they deserved. You know, because it's hard to be an entertainer. It's hard to be a writer or an actor or a director. It's a difficult calling. And I just felt that when I was doing the Monty Awards, that the movies I picked deserved a second chance. Another video that I did, obviously in 2019, the final movie in the Star Wars sequel trilogy came out, The Rise of Skywalker. So in 2020, I did a video ranking all of the live-action Star Wars movies. The 3 different trilogies and the 2 standalone movies, Rogue One and Solo. I decided that it was a chance for me to talk about what I felt was best and worst about each of the movies. And again, like with the Monty Awards, what I felt was probably sort of unfairly overlooked in some of those movies. You know, time passes and people sometimes go back and take another look at movies, and they think that, you know, maybe they judge them too harshly the first time. Well, that's sort of what I talk about in my rankings. I talk about about what I feel are really good about the different Star Wars movies and why some of them are better than others. Another Star Wars video I made was about a new viewing order for Star Wars, because a lot of people have been going back and rediscovering, or discovering for the first time even, the original Star Wars movies and the prequels, and it's reignited a lot of debate about what the best viewing order for each of those movies are. So I did a video about what I think the best viewing order for them is. I call it the spoiler order. And if you haven't seen the first 6 Star Wars movies, then, you know, you can, you know, just listen to the first couple of minutes of this video, and it will tell you what order I think you should watch them in. And the rest of the video is a bunch of spoilers about why I think you should watch it in that order. So that's what that is. Another thing I wanted to include here is my rewrite feature. Now, I've done rewrites of the Star Wars movies. I've done rewrites of Star Trek. I even recently did a rewrite of Dr. Strangelove, set in modern times. But the rewrite video that I really want to include here is a rewrite of Overdrawn at the Memory Bank. Now, this was a TV movie from the 80s, and it's really only remembered for being on an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000 at this point. But it was a precursor for so many movies in a genre that hadn't even really been built yet. I mean, it has aspects of The Matrix and of Ready Player One, and I just, every time I watched that episode of MST3K, I got so many ideas swirling in my head for how to make the movie better, for how to update it for the modern day. Plus, of all the rewrites that I've done, this is the only time I've actually tried to rewrite a bad movie. I mean, I expected when I did rewrites that I would be rewriting more bad movies, but instead I end up rewriting Star Wars, and I end up rewriting Dr. Strangelove. This is the only bad one that I've done so far. I'll try and do more in the future. And the final video that I want to recommend is 101 Years of Superhero Movies. We've had so many. We were supposed to have a lot more. I mean, various COVID-related disasters have kept a few superhero movies from coming out this year when they were supposed to, and various other things. But from 1920 to 2020, we've still had quite a lot of superhero movies, and I just wanted to make a supercut of all of them. So I did 101 Years of Superhero Movies, and I released it on New Year's Eve, and it's ready for you to watch, so go ahead and watch it. That's all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making it through 2020. It was a really rough year for everybody, I'm sure. It was certainly rough for me. And I hope things get better in the new year. I'll be writing more. I will be talking less, hopefully. And I hope to see all of you there. Thank you for watching.